Hello and welcome back to Deeper Conversations with me, your host, Matthew Silvers. Today we are here with a longtime friend, my high school best friend, Irina McCay-Pedrick. Little claps, everybody, woo! She is actually a model in New York City, which we're gonna talk about in another podcast. Um, the ups and downs, the struggles and the highs. But for right now, we're going to talk about something that me and her, or at least I do, have a very deep passion for. And I've been wanting to do this podcast forever. It's been one of the main reasons I wanted to start the podcast is to put my thoughts out there, especially because the real I've had these ideas and thoughts on my own, but when I talked to Irina the first time, like 2 or 3 months ago, we really got into it and I just felt validated and I felt pushed in the right direction to like really speak about this. And I'm so effing excited. So today we're going to talk about communication, communication skills, and all of that jazz. And I'm so excited. But let's just hear from Irina first. Hey, girl, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good, good, good. I look like a frat boy today. If anybody's watching,
Oh, yes, you do.
I look crazy. Like it's not even just the fact that I'm wearing a backwards cap, which like would be normal with the normal outfit, but it's the fact that I'm wearing
I don't know about that.
it's the fact that I'm wearing a pink button down, like rolled up sleeves. It's just all frat boy today. Um, which hopefully doesn't invalidate my arguments here. Just ignore the outfit. So we're just gonna get right into it. And we kind of talked on FaceTime this morning and kind of tried to figure out what we said like 2 or 3 months ago because we could not figure it out. But basically, the conversation started because I was getting really pissed about boys in general.
You and me both.
And oh my God, and their inability to communicate. And that's not just on boys, it really is the human population. Like, even my parents are kind of bad at it. My sisters are wild with it. So it is a global thing, but when you're just it's hitting you right in the face 24/7, like every day, that a boy is like ghosting you or saying something that you don't want to hear or not saying something that you want to hear, it's just all in the face. So the reason that this came up was because, and this is on me halfway, and then obviously on the other guy also halfway, I'll take my responsibility. But basically, there was this boy, and I wanted to invite him over, and I invited him over. I got a response, and it told me that he was too busy. He was working today. Great. Next day, I said, hey, we should hang out. He said, I'm sorry, I can't. I'm busy today. And that continued. And it was more sporadic, but I did do it quite frequently, for the next 2 weeks to probably a month. And I caught myself, which thank God. Um, and I was pissed and I was like, why is this happening? Why am I pissed? What's the core reason? What's not there? And I realized that he had something that most boys don't have, and then he missed, which honestly, communication's a bare minimum, but some things some people just might not know. But honestly, at this point, like, there are lines and he just didn't exceed what I needed. And that's the thing. But the thing that was missing was the second half. And it was the fact that he kept continuously texting me and telling me every single day, hey, I'm busy, I'm at work. No offense to him, no one's at work 24/7 every day. And I also have a busy life. Like, and I'm not saying like, oh my God, it's an honor to hang out with me, but I do schedule time out of my day if you want to hang out. Now, I didn't for him at all because obviously it didn't happen. But the thing that was missing was that he did not tell me when he was free. He said, hey, I'm busy. That's it. In this, he should be saying, hey, I'm busy. Here are the days that I'm free. It continues the conversation. It makes us, have a date to plan out, to hang out, and whatnot. So that's what sparked this conversation of communication. I also do want to state that I am not on dating apps. I haven't been on dating apps and I think it's been like a month or two now. Um, just because I'm taking a hiatus. No, I am not on Grindr. If anyone wants to know, that includes Grindr, which I haven't been on. I deleted Grindr a little bit after, so that was probably 2 weeks ago, maybe a month. Um, just as a little heads up. But I know I'm a great communicator. I know Irina's a really great communicator. There are some people out there that are really good at communicating, and I haven't found them. So that's why we're here today, to give you a little communication lesson and the things that piss us off
Oh
with
yeah.
communication. So here we are. What would you like to start with? Do you have a story you'd like to say first, or do you just want to?
Well, I just want to start off, I feel like, with just saying that I don't think, I think we just live in a society that kind of neglects talking about, issues, like nobody really is taught how to talk about, or explain their feelings and emotions. And so, that being said, I think that's why there's so many problems with communication. Um, I don't know how it is in necessarily other countries, but definitely in the United
Yeah.
States.
And in the United States, and we were talking about this, that when you were forced, and honestly, I'm going to use my sister as an example. And my sister Faith is the most introverted introvert.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
It's hard for her to make friends. It is, she kind of like sleeps and she sits in bed all day. And I'm not saying anything bad about her, but that is just how she is. And funny enough, she actually picks up all my calls. She texts me back pretty immediately. She's actually a pretty decent communicator. But what I'm getting at is that, like Irina said, we're not taught these things in schools. And, honestly, these should be the classes. Like, we always, call out, like, there should always be a home ec class. There should always, we need to learn how to cook. We need to know how to do our taxes, something about mortgages. Like, those are the classes that we should be taking. And not saying that math and English is bad, but here's where we go wrong, is that we are taught every day in high school and middle school and elementary school to sit and listen. And
And to
even when
obey.
we have a question, we must raise our hand to be spoken to.
Yeah. So to listen and to obey. Um, I mean, there's nothing wrong with learning that type of, discipline, but I mean, it's gotten to the point where, like, once we get older, we're terrified to raise our hands in fear of being wrong. And that's where I think a lot of people struggle with doing that communication, because they're afraid of letting somebody down, or they're afraid of being wrong, or they're afraid of being rejected. And so that's why it's like so scary to have that conversation. But literally since day one in school, and like even sometimes at home, depending on like the parents that you live with, oftentimes they were raised, like especially like men, for example, they're raised to not show and express emotion. It shows like weakness. That's how they're raised to think, that it's weak to show emotion. And then women are raised in the sense of, oh, if you feel too much, if you express too much emotion, you're just annoying and you just have to learn to ignore like, so we aren't taught as a society to express emotion and to be okay with feeling, and I
Yeah,
think.
which is such a thing that we're going through right now, I think, with Gen Zers, where and it wasn't just a group of Gen Zers, it did include a lot of generations. However, I think Gen Z was like a main like catalyst for it. But like when it comes to the protests of, George Floyd and Black Lives Matter and
Mhm.
all of that, it really enraged all of us, or most of us, a lot of us, and it really made us speak out. And I think now it should have been a lot earlier. However, I do think that George Floyd's protests were probably and the Black Lives Matter protests, I guess I should say, from last year were the catalyst for a lot of people starting to speak up and change all of their views. Everything from from some basics, basic moral stuff, to communication, to, you know, even, hey, we're going to talk about this in another podcast, but even me going completely from being a Republican to, I would say, a liberal. Um, so, you know, things change, people change for sure. I think the myth about people can't change is really stupid. That's what we do every single day. um, but like I said, so I think that definitely was a catalyst and people started speaking out. But I think people were probably hesitant at first. You know, people were enraged, but like we didn't know what we were gonna do. And then we were like, we have to do something. We can't just sit here and waddle in this. We have to speak out. And it's something, like we said, that's not taught in schools. We're taught to sit there, we're taught to be quiet. Like you said, that's kind of under the
Yeah.
category of obeying and whatnot. And then you go as further as to say that the things that weren't classes in, let's just say, high school, let's just stick with that theme, furthered that action. Irina and I were in the same drama department.
Oh
We should
yeah.
do another podcast on that.
Oh my gosh. There we talk
There's
about
so
this.
many stories that we
Oh
have.
my god.
But we were in the same drama department. We had the same drama director, and even her, after school, after hours, is the same thing. We had to sit there, obey our elder because she was a lot older, and obey even the people who were older than us that weren't older, like our choreographer and things like that. We had to continuously be quiet backstage. And now I know some of these are rules, yeah, like even in standard theater, like you can't say stuff backstage for sure.
Yeah.
But our director screamed at us, she yelled at us, we had to obey her. If we overstepped, she was going to make us cry, we were going to walk out,
Oh yeah.
something of that nature. So that that further suppresses our own voices and makes us more quiet, makes us re establish those rules we gained during the day, during classes. And so everything up until you really leave your own home and you start finding yourself and your own voice is really when you can start forming your own opinions and maybe getting into that same headspace and what we're going to talk about. uh but even for some people, it is really hard as soon as they leave the house to even, like, it takes a while, which is, it's okay because self-love is an everyday battle, but it takes some time to get to that place sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes, you know, people are on different timelines. So
Yeah. And it is hard because especially since so much of your learning comes from school or comes from how your parents raise you, um, you're essentially stepping out into the real world not really knowing how to communicate, and that just like that you having to try to figure that out on your own when all your life you've been focused on learning and figuring things out based on a mentor. And when you're trying to figure that out on your own when you've only ever had a mentor, that's like it's almost impossible, you know.
yeah. And I think it also, you know, and then we can go into this when we start going into the specific things, but even thinking about it, you know, when guys don't respond, for example, you know, what is that attached to from when they were younger? Like, is it because, you know, I don't know, but it's just, you know, I
Well,
think,
this actually I do know a little bit of that, like the answer to that, but that's for a whole like different type of conversation. Sometimes it is dependent on how they're raised, but it's also through the society. Like men society wise are raised differently than women oftentimes,
right.
and parents do that accidentally as well. So it's like it's difficult because the society does it, but because it's because everyone how do I explain it? Like their parents raised them to be a certain way. And so they kind of built the same sort of pattern. So over time, technically, um, they'll build. I don't know how to explain it,
That's
but
okay. I just
yeah,
it was
it's
just
a
it
whole.
poses a question of why are these things happening, and what we're gonna do, we're gonna explain the things that frustrate us the most. We're gonna kind of explain how we can definitely do better, but it's all about just doing. And I talked about this with Irina. Like, who cares about what the past had to say? Who cares about what individual past had to say? It doesn't matter what individual experiences we had with it. We just know that we can do better. And to be honest, we have to do better. And so we were talking about this morning, and we talked about just doing. I saw this TikTok a little bit a while ago, like 2 weeks ago, and this guy was like, I need help. I was a gay guy. He was like, I need help. I really want to ask this guy out from my gym. And I've already explained this a couple of times, but I've asked way too many guys in my gym if they're gay in a relationship, whatever, and if they wanted, if I could have their phone number. And I stitched it. It didn't do well. Just I'm always shadow banned, but it didn't do so well. But the reasoning behind that is that I literally just told him to do it, and that is all you can do. And we talked about let's talk about this. We talked about getting over social anxiety, and you just have to do it. You are in your own way. You are blocking your own way, and until you realize that, you can't blame anybody literally except for yourself for not being a good communicator, and for having these social anxieties. You have to push yourself. Life is too short. You don't have time to figure this shit out. Just do it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. The only way to get over social anxiety is to put yourself in positions that make you essentially uncomfortable. And if you don't do that, then you're not going to get over your social anxiety.
And that can literally be therapy as well. Like, therapy could be a very social, stressful situation that could really let you blossom as well in other situations. Um, like, it doesn't have to be you like forcing yourself to like go to a club and like communicate with everyone in the bar. Like,
Yeah.
nobody's asking you to do that.
And you should never, I don't want to I don't want to sound rude or mean, but like you should never use, oh, I have social anxiety, that's why I'm being a dick or being an asshole. Like, oh, I'm not responding back to you through a text or a message, or I'm completely ignoring you. Oh, that's because I have social anxiety. Like, a lot of people have social anxiety, and a lot of people just do. So
And it can hinder
it's not
you.
an excuse for rude behavior.
It
And
can be, it can be hindering, but it's
yeah,
not an excuse that you should be using. If anything, like, there is still a disconnection from social anxiety and depression. If depression is hindering you, yeah, it can bring you down and you're going to want
yeah,
to stay in bed all day, but your social anxiety shouldn't be an excuse for you not to do it. Funny enough, I've seen a couple of TikToks about New York City, where Irina lives, and the thing about that people tell you when you move to New York City, which is funny because nobody tells you this in any other state, in any other city. They tell you when you move to New York City is the place for the opportunities. Never say no. They always say yes. Say yes. If somebody asks you to go out to dinner, you're going to miss that experience. Say yes. If you're tired, say yes. You're going to regret it in the morning if you don't. And that doesn't, it sounds very contradicting. It sounds very like we might be stalling ourselves in the fact that, like, I also want to say your mental health is more important than literally anything. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. But doing these things and putting yourself out there is so important. If you hate being in bed alone, but you have social anxiety, say yes. Go to that restaurant, go to that bar, go to that amusement park, go to that movie theater by yourself. Do these things, and do them as fast or as slow as you'd like, but take the steps to do so. Like start slow if you have to, and build up, because it's going to be important. And I think, some things are really going to inhibit you later in life. And I really do think that this, is one of them, social anxiety / being a good
yeah.
communicator.
And that's the thing. Social anxiety is hard. I'm not saying that it's not a real problem, and I'm not saying that it's not
Yeah.
something
It's
that
not
like
a one size
the
fits all,
majority
right?
of people have social anxiety. And actually a lot of people, that's what a lot of people go into theater for. Like they'll take theater classes, they'll um or they'll take debate or something like that, just to help them with their social anxiety, and to just to grow, um so I'm not like saying that that isn't a real struggle, because it is, and so many people have it.
Yeah.
But in order to get over that type of problem, you have to constantly be putting yourself in positions that make you uncomfortable.
Yeah. You bring up a great point. That's what, like I said about New York City, same thing about improv club. They always tell you yes. Always say, yeah, I did improv for
Yeah.
2 years,
Well,
I think.
that's why improv courses are like so important, because you can do, it's always the yes and,
Yes, and yeah.
like,
Which is honestly, that's even better than the yes that New York tells you to say. Like I
because
said, here's a perfect example of being a socially anxious person and also wanting to take care of yourself. Somebody asks you to dinner, you don't know the people that they're bringing. Let's just say it's a guy and two other friends, and the guy that you're speaking to says like, let's go to dinner. I'm bringing my two friends, and you don't want to because you're socially anxious and you don't like being around new people. You don't like really meeting new people. Say yes, and then tell him, I can only be out for an hour and a half. You set a boundary for yourself so that your mental health is good, but you also
yeah,
pushed yourself to be not even like a social butterfly. Like in that situation, talk about what you want to talk about, kind of help the conversation further. That's the other thing. Don't just like sit and listen for sure for your health. If you can't speak too much because you're socially anxious, do that. But also help steer the conversation a little bit so you talk about things that you're going to get excited about as well. Like, if you're into movies but he's talking about banks, like kind of be like, oh my God, I love Money Heist. I don't fucking know. But at least like it'll start getting yourself into these good situations where you can also feel yourself being powerful because you can steer the conversations and also carry that conversation.
yeah. And it helps you improve as a person, like, even when, like, you don't have to just have social anxiety to be putting yourself in uncomfortable like situations. Like when I freaking moved to New York, like, that was uncomfortable. Like, I'd never lived in a city before, I was scared out of my mind, but I did it because I wanted to push myself, and I want my career's up here. So like I of course was going to come up here regardless, but it's still like it's scary, moving out. It's scary, like, figuring out your life. But if you're not constantly moving forward and constantly growing, you're going to be stuck in the same place for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And you don't want to do that. You want to keep moving forward, because that's what life is all about.
Yeah. You have to put in the work for yourself,
Yeah,
for
because
nobody else.
things
Don't do
don't just come
anything
for
for,
you.
yeah.
They don't, like, money doesn't grow on trees. Things don't just happen to you. You have to work to make those things happen to you.
Mhm.
And that includes going out there and embracing the world and all it has to offer.
Mhm. By the way, if you live in a place like New York City and you say no to anything, that night that you say no, you're gonna miss Timothy Chalamet. You're gonna miss Zac Efron. You're gonna miss Sutton
That's
Foster
true.
just on the streets. You're gonna miss something, and you're gonna have serious FOMO. Like it's gonna be raging. And even in any other place, like you're gonna have FOMO for something. So
Yeah.
like say yes. And like I said, set the boundary if that's something that you need to do. Set the boundary. If you don't, just say yes and whatnot. But um, so I have a question that I've been pondering and a mindset that I've been pondering that I wanted to toss at you and see what you think. I think that when it comes to the majority of things in life, you do not owe anyone shit. And I think a lot of people
Yeah.
agree with that.
Yeah.
When it comes to communication, it is not about owing something to somebody. It has to do with being a good human being, B, being a productive human being in society, um, and it's just honest and raw, and it's a good thing. And I think people honestly, I would even go as far as saying people owe people communication.
Yeah, and I would definitely absolutely agree with that. It's not when you're communicating with someone, you can't think about it in a way that, oh, I owe them this communication, because the communication is so important, not just like when you're in, like you have a boyfriend or girlfriend or in spouse situations, you know. It's like a part of life. Communication is so important, and like that's the reason why we have several different languages, because humans need to communicate in order to survive, you know.
Yeah.
And so lack of communication just causes so many problems, and I think the reason why we have wars, and the reason why we end up like 50% of marriages don't last, you know. People are having trouble like keeping boyfriend and girlfriends, or even friendships. Like people will lose friendships because they're just so afraid of communication, or when they finally do, it's like they blow up at their friend because they haven't been communicating this whole entire time. So I think, yeah, communication is very important, but it's not about owing someone something. It's about communicating how you feel, and there's nothing wrong with feeling and communicating that.
Yeah. um which I mean, I guess leads us to talking about kind of specifics and the things that we could do better on, which is my favorite part of this conversation, because between me and Irina, like so many things happen to us, and I love the fact that like it's a gay perspective and it's a straight perspective, and like a lot of it can be like very
Yeah.
synchronized. um I think we should talk about the question of what are you looking for first. I brought this up with Irina, and do you mind if I tell them what you're looking for?
No, not at all.
Okay,
I
so
don't care.
Irina's not looking to date at the moment. Irina's more looking for, I guess, a whatever comes your way kind of situation. But I would say also just like mainly like she wants to have some good sexual experiences, which by the way, okay, fucking Samantha in fucking
I knew
Sex
you
in
were.
the City.
Oh my
Um, um, but yeah, that's what she's looking for. What am I looking for? Well, I'll tell you, absolutely nothing. I'm actually not looking for anything at the moment, literally. That's why I deleted all the apps. I'm taking actual time for myself. And I didn't realize up until a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, what that truly actually felt like and meant. And like doing the work and growing and being responsible and being able to satisfy myself. And I don't mean in sexual experiences, I mean in life in general, and being able to be happy for myself in times that are happy, sulk in the sadness, and feel. Because and I always do that really in general, but like Irina said, men are always taught to man up. You know, stop being such a, excuse my language, but stop being, I don't like this word, but that's why I said it, stop being such a pussy.
Yeah.
Like men are taught these things, like don't show emotions. Bitch, first of all, I cry all the time. If you know me, if you've seen my TikToks, I cry all the time. So I do feel emotions, and I've seen a lot of TikToks through it, but I want to tell you that that's important. Sitting in those thoughts, sitting in those emotions is one of the most important things that you can do. You have to trust your feelings. Your feelings are there, and once you feel them, move on. They're gone. Get away from them. Start anew. That's what emotions are for. They're constantly coming in, they're constantly coming out, and if you feel something, feel it and let it happen, because that's your body telling you you're human, and that is a beautiful thing. um but so that's what we're looking. Oh, go ahead.
I do want to say this though.
Yes, please.
It's actually, it's very toxic not to express feelings. So the fact that society encourages us not to, and shuts us down when we do, that's just such a toxic mentality. So
And
toxic.
yeah, that's exactly what happened. In a way, you could say that is exactly what happened with that officer a couple of weeks ago, maybe a week or two ago, where he decided, that he was going to tell the jury, I think it was in court, the jury, that he was having a bad day. And I made a TikTok on it, and I said, if I have a bad day, I take a bath. If I have a bad day, I'm cooking, I'm taking a nap, I'm taking like I said, a bath, I'm playing video games, I'm working out, whatnot. I'm expressing my emotions, I'm sitting in those emotions. I don't go killing people because I'm having a bad day. And that's the toxicity of not expressing your feelings.
And that's why
Um,
there's so much rage when you do end up expressing your feelings, because you've been bottling up all that emotion.
and by the way, nobody out there, this is where that thing comes into play about you don't owe people shit, because you don't. When it comes to your emotions, you do not have to explain yourself to anyone. If you
Absolutely
get
not.
angry at somebody off of the street because they just happen to fucking drop a piece of gum in front of you and that's the catalyst to your day, and you want to fucking scream at them, fucking scream at them. You know, you don't owe them shit, you don't know them. And it's that's so important. You don't owe people an explanation to your emotions, and you don't owe people access to your emotions either. Let them feel for yourself. And then if you choose to share emotions, I'm going to stick with this theme, to be honest, because I'm watching Sex in the City at the moment. You know, you
Such a
sit
good
down with,
show.
no,
Such a
so
good
it's
show.
so good. If you sit with your friends and you talk to them about your emotions, valid. And by the way, your emotions are attached to yourself. No one has the audacity to tell you that your feelings are invalidated. And if you have friends that try to invalidate them with or even without explicitly saying, because there are things people can say without saying, hey, your feelings are invalid, that can invalidate your feelings, your thoughts, your emotions, your experiences. um, Run. You deserve better
Drop 'em.
friends.
Yeah,
You
drop them.
deserve better
Drop 'em.
friends.
Go.
If
Yeah, they're not
anybody's
real
doing that in
friends.
your life, again, I know, again, we're just talking about we're a whole broad spectrum of communication, and it's a lot at once. But there's another thing that you can do. If you feel like you are pushing yourself and being 110% and nobody's giving you anything, stop communicating. Communication works in so many different ways, and a great communication skill is to stop communicating. Stop texting, stop calling all these people that you think that are your friends or your acquaintances, or what I like to call in
Oh
betweeners, where
yeah.
they're in that stage, and see what happens. If they don't respond, A, they're not your friend, and B, you deserve better. They have their own world, you have yours. You are going to, everybody ends up in this world, most people, and I choose to believe the good in this, but most people die with people around them. Doesn't necessarily mean their family, but everybody finds some people, someone. And I think that's important to know. You're not going to die alone. You are going to find a crowd. It might take a while. um and if I'm being quite frank with you guys, I have a very small amount of people that I talk to. And to be honest, the one person I'm talking to right now is Irina. She's the only one I'm communicating with, her and Faith, my sister. In this current moment, those are the only people I'm talking to. I have had Irina in my life since high school, and I never thought, to be honest, that we would communicate any further than high school. And I am so glad that we've done that.
Me too.
And it has
Me
been so
too.
healthy, and we communicate when we need to. And when she's busy, she's like, can we, and she picks the time, she's like, can we call tomorrow? And I'm like, absolutely, I'll talk to you then. And we keep each other on our toes about each other's lives, which is really fun.
Yeah.
um, and it's exciting, it's nice to have. And so you will find those people, and that's important to know. So if you feel like you're giving 110% and nobody's giving you anything, stop communicating, see what happens. It might blow your mind. And that way, when you see that happen, if that is what happens, that's when you can figure out, hey, am I living for myself, or hey, am I living for these other people? Because if you feel like you're drowning and sinking, you weren't taking care of yourself. You were fueling other people's energies to feel like you were protecting and doing things for yourself. But communicating to other people is not communicating to yourself. Communication with yourself is also vastly important. Like we said, not even
Yes.
just feeling your emotions, controlling and thinking and cycling through your thoughts, yoga, meditation, therapy, um, those things can help you sit with not just your emotions, not just your feelings, because they're vastly different. Your feelings, your emotions are different from your thoughts in your brain. Um, can help you sift through uh, the thoughts in your brain. So that's vastly communicating and talking to yourself is super important. And I always say that I trust absolutely no one. That is why I talk to myself. Because
Actually, talking to yourself is a good thing. Like, you should always be checking in on yourself. Like, if
yeah,
you're feeling strange one day and you don't know why, it's important, I think, to like to give yourself some time and to ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? You know, because sometimes there are times in life when you feel a certain way and you have no idea, you know? And that's fine. Like,
yeah.
sometimes you won't know, but I think it's also important to consider why you're feeling that way, you know?
Talk yourself through it, like out
Yeah.
loud, like move your mouth, talk outside, and see what happens, because you can really, you talk other people through things, or
All
you
the
help
time. So
them
why would it be
help,
weird for
yeah,
you to
do
talk
it
to
with
yourself
yourself.
about it?
Amen.
Yeah.
And I do that sometimes when it's, I'm a psychopath. I I'm not. I'm actually just a great communicator. But sometimes I also have like an angel devil on my shoulder. Everyone's presented with all those opportunities, some more than others. And that's when I talk to myself. I'm like, what do I need right now? And it rips me apart and it hurts. And that's one of those times where you have to feel those feelings, because it's not gonna be easy. Nobody's saying that
No,
this shit is
it's
gonna be
no one said
easy.
it would ever be easy.
No. I'm not saying it's going to be super hard. You start to get really good at communicating, and
And you might get emotional, and there's again nothing wrong with that.
yeah, we want you to feel all emotions, good or bad. Like, there's no such thing as a perfect life where you get to feel only happy emotions. Nobody gets that. And we have to deal with that.
Well, also think about it. Life would be very boring if
Joel.
you were happy all the time. Like, there's a reason why life has these trial and errors, you know?
Yeah.
And it helps
Oh,
you
yeah.
grow as a person. Every problem that you face, every hurdle you jump over, just makes you a little bit stronger and helps you grow as a human being.
Yeah.
And informs you of mistakes so that way you won't make them well, I mean, let's be honest, you're still going to keep making those mistakes, but at least you'll learn from
If you want to be a Samantha from Sex in the City and have sex with different men every night, do it. Make the same mistake, baby. If that is what your life
exactly.
is
Just do it.
experiencing, let that be your life, girl. If that's not what you want, then maybe you should reevaluate, check yourself, communicate with
Yeah,
yourself, and like figure out what you can do to stop doing that. But if that's the life you want to live, let that be your life. Do it, bitch.
exactly.
Speaking of Samantha's in Sex and the City, so like we said before, I'm looking for nothing. Irina's looking kind of for whatever comes her way, some sexual experiences, whatever. Which leads us to the question about what are you looking for, which is a question you would think would be super easy. But I have found myself numerous times, which is crazy because I'm a very honest person, changing and it also has to do with not knowing myself, but changing the answer to that question for other people. um and I think a lot of people do that because they want to just feel the validation and what's going to happen in that friendship relationship in between kind of thing, whether that be having sex or going on a date, or being friends. Like we said, this is a whole spectrum. Like, it doesn't have to be just dating and relationships and things like that. um but the question, what are you looking for, answer honestly. It will save you time, it'll save them time, it'll save you anger, it'll save you. Here's the thing, when you communicate well, you want to get to a point where most of your days are good, where most of your days are communication like goods, where you're feeling happy and positive. Like we said, there's moments, there are some days that aren't just your time, and that's okay. But you have to go, because I used to have a bad day after bad day, like in high school senior year. Every day felt like a bad day, like I wasn't having a good time. And now I'm in this state where I'm getting better at just having like more consistently good days. So when you communicate well, you're eliminating future bad moments. And
Yeah,
so in that
I would
moment
agree with
of, yeah, in that moment of what are you looking for, be honest, and here's why. Irina and I were talking this morning, and we talked about cheating. Would you like to talk about the conversation that we had?
that. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, well, which part do you want to talk about?
Just pertaining to like the what are you looking for and being honest about
Okay,
the cheating.
so like what we talked about earlier today was like if you are not sure what you want, it's better to communicate that and be honest that you're not sure what you want than to just jump into something and not telling that person anything, or telling that person only what they want to hear, which is what happens oftentimes on these dating apps. Is guys or even girls, I mean, I haven't had that experience, but
Yeah.
like, I mean, at least I'm just gonna do it from the guys.
Neither of us have.
But the point is, like, guys will often tell girls what they want to hear just so that they can get what they want, which is not fair to the girl or to whoever, like they're trying to pursue. Um, it's not fair to them because it ends up hurting that one person, and then that guy just, I don't know what goes in people's heads when they say that. But it's important to just be honest, because especially example with those apps is you can at least get rid of the people that aren't interested in that thing, and you'll end up having a more fun time. Like, for example, if you just want to do hookups, rather than telling a girl what she wants to hear so you can have sex with her, just be honest so you don't end up hurting that girl and then having that girl make problems for you, because I mean,
Yeah.
let's be honest, sometimes, like, in either way, like, a person can still cause problems, um, and not in a good way. But to save yourself from those problems or the pain or the hurt, just be honest. And it'll be more fun for you, because then the person that you're meeting up with is a person that wants to do the exact same thing and is on the same.
I think it also has to do with, I know this, again, we're just being very broad, so we're gonna go off on little tangents here and there, but it also has to do, like, the dating app thing has a lot to do with like loving yourself. A lot of people are on it, to be honest, very
Yeah,
prematurely. They don't know what they want, and it's not a good space to find out what you want. If you have to figure out in your own time, in your own space, what you're looking for before you're on an app, because
exactly.
it
Yeah.
will destroy you. It
And that's,
destroyed me.
that's the same thing with going out to be honest, to bars too. Like, if you don't know what you're looking for, you gotta put the brake, pump the brakes on that.
Yeah, because especially in the moment, like we said, you're gonna say stuff that you're not ready for. You're probably going to regret what happens next, and you're going to have a bad emotion. You're going to end up having a bad next day, uh or you're going to have a bad conversation with that person if it continues where it's like you didn't think he was cute, but you told him, hey, like, okay, anyways, you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to end up well. In terms of cheating, nobody likes anybody out there that condones, is that the right word? That's not right. No, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's
Anybody
right.
that condones cheating, I was thinking of the word condemns. Anyone that condones cheating but doesn't condemn cheating, I don't know what you're doing. Cheating is wrong in all aspects. But
Very
here's my thought. Um, again,
At
I'm
least say
just,
it. If Yeah, exactly. So, like, regardless, again, just for clarification, cheating is very, 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 very wrong, and you're an asshole if you do it.
cheating, I
Or a
was
bitch.
gonna say
You're an
cheating
asshole or a
makes
bitch if
you
you do it.
a bad person.
So let's
Period.
clarify that
End of
before
story.
before we get into it. Let's just clarify that Matthew and I do not agree with this.
Yes.
But if you are going to cheat,
Yes.
again, we do not agree with this. inform the person that you'll be cheating with so that they can make that stupid, dumb, horrible, asshole decision for themselves, you know? And don't drag somebody who is innocent and has no idea that you're going to be doing it into a whole problematic situation, because whether it's a spouse or a boyfriend or a girlfriend, you're then hurting two people. Again, you're
Yes.
an asshole if you cheat.
You are a bad person if you cheat. We are
Bottom line.
saying right here, right now, you're a
Again,
bad person if you cheat.
communication is so
But
important.
communication in that scenario is such a prime example, because here's the thing. I want to believe everyone's good. I expect people to be a standard level of good. We should get the bare minimum from everyone, and that's that on that. There are going to be bad people in this world. I acknowledge that. There are going to be people who, like we said, are going to cheat. However, you can minimize the hurt that you bring upon others from yourself by being a good communicator. So if, like we said, if you're going to cheat, tell that person that you have whatever, boyfriend, girlfriend, significant other, you're seeing someone pretty seriously, but you don't know, like, even if it's down to that point where it's like I don't know, like in that stage of like, we may say I love you, but we haven't been exclusive, say that. You don't have to dish your entire love life with somebody like else. They don't need that. But be honest, communicate, and be like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, I have a wife. I have a husband. That way they can walk away. I told Irina this morning. I still stand by it, and I've done it before. If you watched my TikTok, some people agreed and some people didn't. I don't give a shit what you think. But it happened to me, and I didn't know. And then I found out, and I exposed his photo online because his husband deserves to know. If you cheat and you tell me that you have a husband, I'm not going to meet you. And then I'm also not going to expose you because you didn't do any harm to me. But if you decide to meet me, to start doing things with me, and then like end up like me finding out, and I'm the one that's hurt and in the situation as well, I'm going to expose you. And I don't give a fuck about those people who are like, snitches get stitches. You know how many times people have said that, and I have spoken up, and it's been the better choice so many times. Don't
It's always,
ever,
but that's the thing, it's
don't
always the better.
ever, yep, don't ever let anybody tell you that snitches get stitches. Be the fucking snitch. You'll feel amazing, and you'll teach somebody else a better lesson. Be a good communicator.
You will be helping out somebody who may not even know that the situation is going on. So again, communication is really important.
Communication is number one. There is a reason people say that. It is key in everything you do in life, with yourself, with friends, with relationships, literally any social situation that you're in. It can save lives. It can ruin lives. It can, like, communication is intense. I think that's like the best word for it. Communication is intense. So we'll kind of jump from cheating and going on to quite kind of the same parallel. Same thing when it comes to open relationships. We'll kind of skim over this pretty quickly, but open relationships. I've told you my thoughts on open relationships. It's kind of changing. I still would never be in any open relationship, but I've come to this realization that people are right. It has no effect on me. If you want to be in an open relationship, Jesus, do that. You do you. If that's something that benefits you, do it. It doesn't bother me. Like, it has no control. It has no effect over me. And I've learned that lesson even from the podcast that I said that about a month ago. So I've thought it over, and I'm coming to that conclusion and whatnot. However, and it doesn't rebuttal what I just said, because it's just an add-on. Same thing. And people deserve to know where the communication lies in your open relationship. And I didn't say they deserve to know the basis around your open relationship, whatnot. They deserve to know how your open relationship works in the premise of having sexual relations with you. If I had sexual relations with somebody in an open relationship, I want to know what the parameters are, I guess the rules, what the rules are in the open relationship that allows you to come have sexual relations with me. If it doesn't seem like that is, it sounds truthful or whatnot, and obviously that's kind of a case to case basis where you have to communicate with yourself to figure out if that is something that you can even handle or trust that other person to be truthful, because there be some lying people out here, that then evaluate and do that. To be honest, at this point in my stage of life, I already said it, I'm not doing anything, I'm not sexual, I'm not dating, whatever. But I think at this point, when I get back into the game, I don't even know if I really want to sleep with somebody in an open relationship. I don't really think that's something I really want, especially because I'm such a good communicator, and I don't really want to be in that. And that's my own preference, and again, like I said, I'm at this point where if you want to be in an open relationship, baby, you do that. If your open relationship, obviously, because it is open, technically that this is what this means, but if you want to have sexual relationships in your open relationship, that are allowed, you go do that, you have fun, but it's not something I really want to be a part of.
Yeah.
Do you want to
But
speak
I
on
think
that,
that's
or
like that an open relationship is actually a really good example for communication. That relationship is all about communication and
open
making,
relationships take so much
yeah,
communication?
they take so much effort, and it's so important that you set the boundaries, and that they're like, if you have to talk about certain things, that you make sure that you make that a priority, like you make sure that you communicate all the time. And if there are certain things you don't want to talk about, again, communicate that. Like, you can't just jump into an open relationship and hope for the best. Like, there's so many rules and regulations you got to set up to make
Mhm.
this, to make it work.
Yeah. And you know what's funny that you say that, because it kind of just sparked something in my mind, is if you're in a monogamous relationship and you get to this point where somebody brings up an open relationship, that point in your time is another very prime example of being a communicator, and doing and making sure that that relationship has not destroyed who you are as an individual, because that'll be your stance. If you don't want an open relationship and that other person is really convincing and really communicating what that open relationship would look like, but you do not want an open relationship, your life does not end because of that other person. You
Yeah.
still have you still have a life. If that is not something you want, you tell them that. And you
You
can
do,
even,
and you check in with, again, with the check in with yourself. You have to check in with
yes.
yourself. If you need to take time to think about it, do so. But
Yeah.
if you don't feel comfortable with doing so, you have to speak up.
You
Because the
have to
problem
say
is,
something.
if you don't speak up, if you don't say that you are uncomfortable with the position that whoever, you know, whether boy or girl, or whoever is putting you in, if you don't speak up, you're causing harm to yourself.
Yep. And you can protect yourself, and it's so easy if you just speak up, which is easy. People are like, it's easier said than done. No, it's literally easy. You just have to do it. And that's what, kind of full circle in that moment from the beginning, is that these, we didn't do it. And I just noticed this either. We didn't say this stuff in an order. Like, we didn't write this stuff down. We just kind of started the conversation,
Yeah.
but we kind of said it in steps. You cannot let yourself get into a position like that without saying yes to those individualistic social situations, with or without social anxiety. You have to put yourself in those situations, in a bar, in a club, in a restaurant, in a movie theater, even, the social anxiety people who literally cannot say, hey, this food is undercooked, can I have another one? There's tons of people out there that can even do that. You need to be able to do just that, even the bare minimum, because when you get to that situation, you're not I can already tell you right now, you're not going to say anything. You're not going to speak up, and you're going to be trapped. You're going to be unhappy, and you won't be able to get out of the relationship, at least immediately, if not for a really long time.
Yeah.
And
And
like I
this
said,
also,
yeah, go ahead.
it also applies to life too, if you think about it. You know how you don't grow in a relationship if you don't communicate. You get stuck, just like you said, and you end up being miserable. It applies to life as well. I was so miserable in school. I'll give this as an example. I was
Yeah.
so miserable, so unhappy. And finally, my second year of college, I stopped. It shouldn't have taken me this long, but I stopped and I checked in with myself, and I'm like, Irina, why are you so miserable? Why are you so stressed out all the time? Why are you crying like every week? And I checked in with myself, and I was like, wait a second, do I even want to be here? And that's the thing, like my parents have always been super supportive. And again, like it does help having super supportive parents, because I mean, Matthew, you're still doing great, but it does, I will say it does really help to have super supportive parents. But my parents weren't the ones pushing me to go to school. The one thing they did always say, though, is if you don't choose to go to school, you have to always be working to push yourself in life. So, like, of course, that's great advice. Like, regardless of whether you choose to go to school or not, you should always constantly be pushing yourself. But what I ended up doing was I checked in on myself and realized I was miserable. And then I made the decision that day that I was going to stop going to school. So I called my parents, I let them know, and they're like, you do you, you'll figure it out. We have faith in you. And I sat down with my school counselor, and I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm out of here. And once I made that decision, it was a scary decision to make. It took me like a whole month to really make the decision. But when I did, I felt like I could breathe. And I felt like for years I had been drowning and had no idea that I was drowning, and I couldn't get to the surface. And finally, when I made that decision, I surfaced, and I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't been breathing for years. And those decisions will always be like, I mean, again, with the moving to New York City, I was terrified, so terrified. But then the pandemic hit, and I was like, you know what, Irina? You are miserable here. You just have to do it. And so I did that too. And I just kept going and going and going. And it makes you a stronger person too. And it makes you more confident in yourself. And you're just like, I have never been more happier in my life than I am right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that is because I took drastic measures to ensure my happiness.
Yeah.
And
And it's,
again,
yeah. Oh, go ahead.
that's a part of growth, and that's a part of communicating with yourself. And it's important to communicate with other people as well. Like, you notice that I was constantly communicating with people when I was making
Along
the
the way. Yeah.
along the way. You are always going to have to communicate. You are always going to have to take scary steps, but that is what makes you who you are as a person, and it's what causes you to grow and become a better person.
Communicating, like Irina just said, is um a way to protect yourself without being selfish.
Yeah, and it's
And if
also
anybody calls you selfish for protecting yourself, they don't belong in your life.
yeah.
Um, just make sure, like Irina said, like you're communicating with yourself, but it's also very important to communicate with others in individualistic ways when they arise of, again, whatever. Hi, hello. I hate to be the burden of bad news, but I actually think it's pretty fun. I think it's pretty great. This is going to be split up into two parts, two almost identically equal parts. And I am very excited about it because this is the conversation I've been wanting to have for a while, and it came out way better than I expected it to. And we just kept bouncing off of each other. So it's a little bit abrupt that I'm ending this right here. And you're going to get the next episode next week. You're just going to have to hold on. But this is a lot of communication efforts for 1 week. Go learn some stuff. Come back to me. If anybody has any communication things they want to talk about in the conversation below, in the comments, please do so. I would love to hear some things that you've learned, some tips, tricks, and whatnot. But I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we'll be back next week with Irina with the second half. I love y'all.